Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Barry Coombs. I work for Computer World. Welcome to my session introducing Microsoft Lists. I'm really excited by this technology and also delivering this session for you. I've had a varied career via working on a service desk, joining Computer World and specializing in virtualization technology, all the way through to where I am today, being one of the directors here at Computer World. And I think Microsoft Lists, I see a number of different use cases that businesses traditionally have a number of challenges around. So I'm excited to be able to demonstrate to you how this technology may be able to help you. Some thoughts, considerations that you might have to give before starting your first project with Microsoft Lists. So without any further ado, we'll get started. So we're going to go through a number of basics of what Microsoft Lists is, where it has come from. We're going to look at the dashboard where you're able to see your list and go and create your first list. We're going to customize a list for a very specific use case. We're going to share it with some others. We're going to look at how it can be used in conjunction with Microsoft Teams. And then finally, we're going to have a look at setting up some rules and notifications before looking at how you could go further, what you can do in a more advanced configuration. And if you look at the Define Tomorrow agenda, you'll see that I am running a second session on Microsoft Lists where we're looking at some of those more advanced automation use cases. So I think it's important to start with actually what is Microsoft Lists and what it isn't. Microsoft Lists was launched to many of us sort of August, September time this year in its current guise. And it's available across the Microsoft 365 portfolio. So the likelihood is if you're using Office 365 or Microsoft 365, you're going to have access to Microsoft Lists in some way, shape or form. Microsoft Lists helps you share and track information. So an example might be if your business has a number of processes or has a process where you have to track information through different stages or track a product or track a task through different stages. Microsoft Lists can be customized to help you with that specific task. It could be used to plan activity within a team. You've of course got Microsoft Planner that could be used to that. So you generally would only use Microsoft List if Microsoft Planner wouldn't meet those specific requirements. Now, Microsoft Lists has come from an evolution from SharePoint Lists, and we'll go into that a little bit more in a moment. But what makes Microsoft Lists so unique is it gives you a starting point, but you really get the most benefit when you are customizing it to meet your very specific use cases. And we'll have a look at how we can do some of that customization during the demonstration. Now, Microsoft Lists is currently being rolled out. So if you can't see it today when you go and visit office.com, the likelihood is you'll get it in the next month or so. It's also worth checking inside Microsoft Teams. We're seeing it become available inside Teams before it's available as a standalone application from many of our customers. So I'll show you how to go and add a tab with a Microsoft List in during the demonstration as well. Now, as I've already mentioned, Microsoft Lists comes from an evolution for a technology that's been around now for more than 20 years, which is SharePoint Lists. And I used to be a SharePoint administrator some probably 15 years ago now. And effectively, SharePoint Lists allowed you to bring together collections of information in a list that could be shared with people in your organization. Now, it's fair to say Microsoft Lists can be used for a variety of different use cases, but it isn't really designed to hold huge amounts of data. So if you're a larger organization and you needed a custom CRM solution or ERP solution, whilst you probably could build a proof of concept inside Microsoft Lists, it isn't really what it is designed for. It's designed for point fix problems for smaller use cases. Now, the latest evolution of Microsoft Lists has a dedicated application available in Office only today, and it's going to be available in mobile apps shortly as well. So before you go out there and create your first list, it's worth considering a number of different things. Now, the first thing I really urge my customers to think about is, have you got a centralized business system that really you should be saving this data in? Now, typical examples are CRM systems, accountancy packages, ERP systems, project management applications. Now, often when you are, well, certainly as end users are facing challenges with these types of applications, it can be very easy to go and look for an alternative and store the data in that alternative application. I really wouldn't advise that, certainly without speaking to IT, speaking to your colleagues, and understanding why the business needs that type of data stored in that main business system. It may be that in your exploring why you need to store that data in the main business system, that there actually is an opportunity and there isn't much value storing it in that main business system. But it's important not to fragment your data, not to cause confusion, not to silo data into areas where others may not be able to visit. So first of all, just think about where is the best place for this data and who is going to need to be able to access it. The next thing when you create your list, and we'll show this in the demonstration, is who is going to have to access it? Is this just for your use case and maybe one or two colleagues? Is it going to be needed to be shared with a wider variety of people inside your organization? Are you going to need to share the data with people outside your organization? And this may change your mind as to how you're going to create that list. Think about how the information is going to be used. Are you going to have to filter it in some specific way? So maybe if there are 7 different stages during a project, what are those stages? Have those documented before you go and create your list to allow you to create it in the most optimal way to get that output from the data that you're going to need. And then finally, understand the permissions. Are you creating the list, but others are just going to be contributing to it? Do you need other people to help be able to modify the list in the future? Who's going to manage the list as it moves forward? So what we're going to do now is we're going to move into a bit of a demonstration to show you some of this technology in action. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to head over to office.com. So we've logged into office.com with our usual information, and you will see that the lists application is in the bottom left here for me. It might be that you need to click the application waffle in the top here and go all apps for you to be able to see it, in which case you should be able to see lists in the menu. Now, if you can't see it here, speak to your IT department, ask, have you got access to it? Is it a permissions problem? Or maybe it hasn't just rolled out to your tenant from Microsoft 365 yet, in which case maybe check back in 2 to 3 weeks to see if it is then available. So I'm going to select Microsoft Lists, and that's going to take me to the default dashboard. Now we can see inside of here, I've got a number of lists I've been working on recently, and I've favorited a number of lists across the top. So if I go into here, I'm just going to take those stars out. What we can quickly do is find the list that we've been working on and favorite them, just so it is easiest for us to come and find them as we move forward. We can see the recent applications, or we can change that to see the ones that we have specifically created. We're able to go into any of these different applications and customize them. So if I just click the 3 ellipses down the bottom here and choose customize, I can change the name of the list. I can change the color. It's currently blue. I'd like it to be a nice shade of pink. And I'd like it to have a picture of an aeroplane rather than the picture of the clipboard that I've currently got. And then I click save, and you can see that that has further customized that list to your specific needs. Underneath each of these lists, I can see where they are stored. So are they stored in a specific shared group, or are they unique to me? And this was part of the reason that I said you need to think about who is the audience, who is going to be consuming the information inside of the list. The next thing we're going to do is look at creating a list. So if I choose the option here for new list, we're presented with a wizard that gives us a number of different options. I can choose to create a list from blank, in which case I just need to provide a name, a description, the color, and the icon. And importantly, as we've already spoken about, is it going to be my list? Is it going to be just for me? Or is it going to be saved to a site that we have access to? This could also be a Microsoft team that we have access to. Now, if you need to share it with a wider team, my recommendation is move it straight to that team. Today, there is no way to move a list from my lists into a team once you've created it. So you need to make sure that you save it in the appropriate place. Now, if I come back to the editor, if you've already got the data that you'd like to populate a Microsoft list with, you can actually create it from an Excel document where you come into here, you upload the Excel document that already has the data in it, and it will use that to create the relevant different column headings in the Microsoft list for you. So that's another quick and easy way for you to be adding information or creating your first Microsoft list. We also have the ability to create a list from an existing list. This might be useful if you have created a list for a specific use case for one team, and then you wanted to replicate that, you want to duplicate that for another team. So from here, you can pick a list from My Lists or from any team-based lists, and you can copy the structure of that without copying the data for it. So we're able to get a duplicate structure of a list from one location to another location. But Microsoft have taken it a stage further, and they've actually given us a number of different templates that represent some of the most common use cases we see Microsoft lists being utilized for. So under templates, we've got the issue tracker, we've got employee onboarding, we've got event itinerary, asset manager, recruitment tracker, travel requests, work progress tracker, and content scheduler. And when we click each of these, you will see an example as to what this might look like. So here we can see a list that has got the session name, the session code, session type, so on and so forth, that could be used for planning a conference like Define Tomorrow. You can put registration information there, location information there. You could share it with those that are planning the event, but maybe also speaking at the event, so people are able to collaborate on it. If I pick something like an issue tracker, so maybe you are running projects, you're a project manager, and you need a better way of tracking the issues in your project, you can very quickly and very easily run out an issues log that you could then further customize to meet your specific requirements. Now, for the purpose of the demonstration, I'm going to choose the option here to create a content scheduler. So as we can see here, this could be used by a marketing team or a communications team to plan the content that they were going to be sharing on social media, on a blog, and by other means. So we're going to use this template. I'm going to call it the marketing content scheduler. It's really important to always give your lists a meaningful name and description. So we can see that this is already been utilized. So I'm going to call it campaign content scheduler, a list for us to plan the content during the campaign. I'm going to choose a color that's relevant, and I'm going to choose an icon that's relevant. Now, importantly, remember, you can have two types of lists. You can have a private list or you can have a shared list. Private list you will store in My Lists, that is only going to be accessible by you unless you share it somewhere else. Or you can share it to a site, a SharePoint site, which would be relevant if you want to use it in Microsoft Teams. So for this demonstration, I'm going to choose the option to save it to the demonstration team, and I'm going to leave the tick that says show it in site navigation. That means if we go over to SharePoint, you're going to be able to have quick and easy access to this list. So I'm going to click create, and that list is going to be created for me, and I will be taken straight into this list to be able to customize it and add some information. So what I'm going to do first of all is add some information to this before we customize it a little bit further. Now we can either add information by clicking new in the top left and completing the information in this form. That's really good if you just want to be adding a single record. But because I want to add quite a lot of content in here, I'm going to choose the option to edit it in grid view. Now, in true Blue Peter fashion, I've got some dummy data that I'm going to put straight into there. And if I come into here and I choose the option to paste, I'm now just pasting that information that I've pre-created in Excel over into here. And you can see the information has gone into the rows and lists. We can see that we've got a draft due by date and a published date for each of these different pieces of content. We can see where the content has been created, and we can see the publish link that we've got here for the information that has that. Now, if I choose to exit the grid view, we will see that all that information has been stored. Now, this is great. I've chose a template. I've been able to put my information in it, but there's a number of pieces of information that are missing, and I don't quite like the way that it's viewed. So what we want to do is we want to just tweak this a little bit. So the first thing we need to do is we want to change the content types that are available. I need to add a different type of content. So if I choose the downward arrow on content type and go to column settings and choose edit, you can see that the types of content that we've got are help article, blog post, video post, and social media post. We want to have another type, which is printed material. So we're going to add that in. We can customize the color for that option if we should so wish. And we're going to, once we have done that, click save. So we've now just added that new content type in here. Now, the other thing that we seem to be missing is who is going to do this work. We've got author, which shows who has created this task, but we haven't got a list of who this has been allocated to. So we're now going to choose the option to add another field. So down the end here, I'm going to choose the option to add a column, and I'm going to choose the person type column. So note here, we can add a number of different types. So a single line of text, multiple lines of text, a specific location, a number, a yes or no, a kind of binary field, a person, which will be integrated with your Azure Active Directory list of people, a date and time, a choice field similar to the content type that we've got, and hyperlink, the same as the publish link that we've got. Currency, as you would expect, is a monetary figure. Image, or we have the option for more for things like calculated fields. We're just going to choose a person for the time being, and I'm going to call this assigned. And I want the option to allow multiple people to be selected. Maybe there's a group of people working on a specific task. We've got a number of options here that allow us to choose whether it is a required field or not. And then I'm going to click save. Now, we are able to further customize this by dragging the fields into the relevant order so the information is saved in the most appropriate way. So once we've done all that, we can look at the other customizations that are available. So if we choose the drop down, we have the ability to look at the format of the column. So for this example, because I've chosen a choice box, we've got the choice pill, the same as status and content type. We could change the background color like we've done there, or we could implement some conditional formatting. So for example, when the due by date is in the past, we could make the line go red and things like that. And we can create relevant rules. So I can say when the status is equal to or is not equal to published, then I want to go and make it red. And we can see that that has then made the ones that are not published red. Now it depends on your requirements and what style would be necessary to make that work for you. We can also do more advanced customizations using JSON, a kind of coding language that's very simple, that allows us to be able to create some custom conditions for the formatting, should we so need it. So I've just cancelled out of that for now. Now, I can come back into here, and any of these I can choose to click to go and review and edit the information that is available there. I could choose to go and add an image. So let's say we're going to put the Cadbury's logo in there, and that image will then be added into here for display, and we can have a look at that in a moment. You can see in this example, it is displayed here in the top right. We also have the ability to be able to go and change the different types of views that might be available in our list. So for example, in the top right here, we could choose to group the information by content status, which will further then divide up the data by which status each piece of content is currently in. That'd be really helpful if we're trying to do some kind of review activity for all the planned work that hasn't yet been assigned. We could choose to look at all the content that has currently been published, or we could look at all the content that has been unpublished. And it's very easy for us to tweak this. So for example, if I wanted to look at all the work that had been assigned to a specific person, the first thing that would be really important for us to do is if I go back to the all item view, is first of all, I'm just going to go in and edit some of these. I'm going to choose in here someone to go and do this work. So Megan's going to be allocated on that one. I'm going to be allocated on that one. Megan is going to be allocated on that one. I'm going to choose the option now to exit that view. So we can now see that those people have been stored here. I can now choose the option to go filter by, and I want to see all the work that is going to be completed by Megan. So I'm going to click apply. So we've now got a view that only shows the work for Megan. Now what we could do is save that for a view that we could use some other time. So if I go save view as, and I call this Megan's work, I can make this public, so when Megan logs in, she'll also be able to select that view. But effectively, once that is saved, we will then be able to go and select that from the list, so you'll be able to go and view Megan's work quickly and easily from here. We also have some other different types of view. So from here, we should be able to go and create a new view and choose the option for a calendar view. So I'm going to call this content calendar, and I'm going to leave it by draft due by date, and I'm going to make it public. And then from here, we're able to go and see the content quickly and easily in a calendar view. Now, depending on when that content is scheduled, we will see it in this view. So it's then quickly and easily accessible. So if we just come back to all items, let's go and have a look at some of these dates to see when they are viewing. So we've got January 2020. So if we go back and have a look at that, so just going to exit the view, go and have a look in the content calendar and go back to January. Here we go. So you can now see that we can quickly and easily find the tasks that need to be done on the specific day and go and edit them from this view. So Microsoft Lists introduction there, we can go and see that's the record. So it's a really nice way to be able to go and view that. And we can actually format it in such a way that the start date and the end date would be displayed as a continual line of work that needed to be completed for each specific entity. There are also other views that we can do here. So if I go back to Microsoft Lists, I'll go back to the start of the application. If I look at one of the other types of lists that are available and we have a look at the Asset Manager, what we can see here is we've got a gallery view that is available. So up here, we can see that we've got a gallery selected rather than a list. So if I show you what the list looks like for this, I can then go and change that over to a gallery. And this would be really useful to a visual list that you may need. So selecting a type of device in these examples. So as you're browsing through it, you can have a look at the devices that are available to go and select the one to allocate to the relevant person. And then we could go into here and go, right, yeah, this looks the right person. We can go and choose the right person to then go and allocate this specific type of device to. So that might work really well for those kind of more visual lists that are available. Another example might be where you need to get a notification when a date comes. So if we look in this list, we can see the purchase date, we can see the order, we can see a due date when this is maybe due to be returned. So this is due to be returned 9th of the 10th of 2020. We have the ability at the top here by clicking the three ellipses to choose alert me. And then from here, we're able to choose a number of different conditions on when we should be alerted. So these alerts here will be more for when things are changed to this list or added to this list, or we can choose the option here to manage the alerts or automate to go and create some flows so we could get alerted when that due date exists. Now, if you check over on the advanced session, we'll be digging in more to those advanced flows that are available. Now, whilst we're in here, we can look at the options that are available to us in terms of sharing and exporting the data. So what's really important is once you've got the information in here, it is possible to export that into Excel. And just by clicking there, we'll see that an Excel file is created that we could then open up in Excel to go and edit that detail in some other way before then maybe re-importing it or moving it into another system where relevant. Or maybe we need to go and share this list with someone else. So we have the option to either share the whole list. So I could choose the option here and then go and share this with Megan. And I can choose what level of access that she's got. And then I can grant access. But interestingly as well, you can choose to share an individual item from this list as well. So we should have the ability in here, have a look, to share an individual item. So if I just switch over to the list view. So in the list view, if I select this item, you can see that we now have a share icon on an individual item. So we select the share icon, and then again from here, I can choose the option to share just that one item. So when they log in, that's all they'll be able to see with that person as well. So we've got a number of different ways that we can share and work on this information together. We're also able to access those from the dashboard itself. So again, we can choose the option to click the free ellipsis and choose share, and we get a similar screen there to be able to go and grant access to individual people. Now, don't forget, if you've chosen to save the list into a specific location, into a specific group, everyone in that group will have access to it. It is possible to then further configure the permissions inside of that, and you might want to do that to stop people editing the structure of the list itself. And if you check the advanced session that I'll be running later on today, if you're watching live at Define tomorrow, I'll show you how to go and look at those settings in SharePoint. And we're also able to edit things or enable things such as version control, where you're able to look at the history of all the changes that have happened in a list. And that might be really important with lists that need some form of governance for them. So the next thing we're going to go and look at is how Microsoft Lists could work in conjunction with Microsoft Teams. So we're going to go into Microsoft Teams, and we're going to go into a specific team that we wish to display a list in. So I'm in my demonstration team here, and I'm in the general channel. And what we're going to do is we're going to choose the Add a Tab button at the top here, and we're going to choose Microsoft Lists from the available options. Again, if you don't have that there, just check with IT to make sure you're enabled to be able to use Microsoft Lists in conjunction with Microsoft Teams. If you can't find it, you could just search for it. That may be an easier way of finding it if you've got a large amount of applications there. So we're going to select Microsoft Lists. We're going to click Save, and we'll see that a new tab has been added at the top here. We've got two options. You can either create a list from here, which will give you a similar view to what you had when we did it inside Microsoft Lists. We also have the option to add an existing list. Now, because we've created the list in Microsoft Lists itself, we want to just add that existing list. And as you can see here, we've got it available to us nice and easy because it's already stored in the team. Alternatively, we can paste a link to it there. So we're just going to choose that option. The campaign scheduler that we previously created has now been added in here. We have the ability to look through this list. We have the ability to go and schedule to look at the different views. So as you can see earlier when I was having some trouble saving that, those views did actually save. So I can see that I've got Megan's work as an option available there. I can see that I've also got the content calendar here. And if I go back to January, you'll see that that item that we have available there is available in this view. So that's nice and easy. If I go back to all items, I can quickly review each of these. I can still choose the options to move these fields about if I should so wish. And I can choose the option to go in and look at an individual item. Now, what's new in Office 365? This is a really important task, and I want to make sure that Megan does something specific for this. So what we're going to do is we're just going to choose to add some extra detail to this. So the first thing we want to go and do is flag for Megan that we need her to do something specific. So in Microsoft Teams, we have the ability under each specific item to choose a conversation. And then here, I could choose the option to go at Megan, when you complete this task, please can you add some information about Microsoft Lists. And as you can see, like Teams chat in any other scenario, like when you use it with Word or Excel, that information is stored directly alongside the list item. So Megan will get a notification that she has a new chat item, and she will be taken straight through to this item. So if I go back to the general tab in this team, you can see in the conversation view here that Megan has received that update. And if Megan was to come in and action that, she could reply here and say, at Barry, I won't be able to do that because that's me. So at team, I have now completed this. And that's quick and easy to allow us to be able to interact about individual items when we're going through the set of work that is available to us. So there's some additional features that are coming in the future that will show when conversations are under each item, there will be a little set of speech marks against the specific item. We can choose the option to obviously progress this through the various different stages there. We can choose to edit this view if we should so want to. So we can go and remove the relevant elements from there if we should so want to. So if I save that, the content image is going to disappear, and we can choose to go and add it back in as and when required. So this is really easy to use. It's really easy to customize. And it really starts with thinking about the specific use cases where you could do with storing information and tracking information through those various different stages. So if we head back over to the presentation, just for the last few slides there. So we went through the considerations when creating your first list. Is there an alternative location for the information to be stored rather than moving it into Microsoft Lists? Do we need to share the information? What permissions need to be available? What outcomes are we hoping to achieve? My recommendation is where you want to be able to filter the data, make sure you use a choice field. That means people have to select the relevant item in that choice field, which makes your life easier to report and filter upon it later. We looked at personal lists, which are created in My Lists, or shared lists, which are created in groups or teams that can be further accessible through Microsoft Teams. We looked at the ability to favorite lists by clicking the star in the dashboard view, so it appeared at the very top. We looked at the templates that are available to you out of the box, such as the content calendar and the issues log. We looked at customizing fields, so adding some information to the choice fields. We also added a new type of person fields. We looked at the ability to be able to quick edit, the ability to choose the ability to edit in a grid view or edit a single item. We looked at formatting data, so looking at either coloring individual items or making them into a pill format. We looked at the integration with Microsoft Teams, so adding that list that we created into Microsoft Teams, or indeed, we could choose to go into Teams and create one there at the beginning. We looked at sharing items or sharing lists if we needed to add people that weren't part of the team we created it in, or if we created the list in My Teams. And we discussed a little bit about automation, which is one of the really interesting elements that we will be digging into further in the advanced session that is going to be running later today if you're watching this live for Define Tomorrow. Microsoft are putting a lot of work into this, and there's some new features going to be coming very shortly. Things like the calendar view and the grid view where we had, the gallery view where we had the pictures have only become available in the last week or so. And we're looking for the ability to create simplified rules, simplifying the form customization so you can make it more visually appealing. The comments, not just working inside Teams, but working inside the Lists app. That should be coming soon. We're also going to have mobile apps available with iOS available towards the end of the year, hopefully, and Android next year. So really good to see Microsoft investing in this technology and progressing its specific use cases. As I said, we're running a session later on today for the Microsoft Lists advanced users. We're going to look at creating a list right from scratch, not from a template, and the things we should consider. We're going to enable version control in SharePoint so you can see multiple iterations inside Microsoft Lists. We're going to change the permissions to lock out people from editing the structure of the list and allow people to just either view or edit the information. We're going to look at Power Automate, Microsoft's automation tool, and we're going to feed in some data using Microsoft Forms. We're going to feed that into a list, and then we're going to do some information. We're going to do some automation in there where that data is then shared to Microsoft Teams and emailed to people at a relevant time. So we're looking to go through a scenario where you can really take Microsoft Lists from being a static list that you can use to check data through various stages through to a fully automated tool that you could use as part of your team. Now, one of the things we are offering at Computer World is an Art of the Possible session. If you found this session useful, if you thought that actually we might not be making the most out of Office 365, things like lists might be really helpful to our business, we are happy to offer a free Art of the Possible session. There's no commitment. It's just our ability to be able to share what actually you could be achieving with inside Microsoft 365. So head over to adopt365.co.uk/AOP to book your session completely free of charge. I hope you found today's session useful. I hope you've been able to take something away that is going to help you in your journey with Microsoft Lists. And if I can be of any assistance, then please reach out to me on LinkedIn or over on Twitter @VirtualizeReal. Thank you very much for joining me on today's session.